Okay. Hi folks, this is the first segment of Fun Time Friday with Michael. These next 2 Fridays we're going to talk about different things, and we're going to start off talking today about seed germination. Usually we have a nice seminar this time of year where a lot of you guys come in and we can do a nice group setting, but this year we're not going to do that. So I'm going to do some short segments throughout this next month or two here and get your seed growing started for you. We have everything in stock right now to get you started. So we have a great selection of seeds in our garden center. We have all the elements you're going to need to get started. If you have some of these things left over from last year, you can reuse them. We have different types of trays and inserts that go with them. It always helps to have an extra grow light with it. And we also sell some seedling heat mats that help with germination and speed up the process. And don't forget your plant tags and those kind of things to identify your seedlings before they start growing. The thing you want to focus on today is just picking out your seeds and what the timing is and when to get them started and growing. Also thinking about what you're going to grow from seed and maybe not grow from, maybe not start initially in your home. There's some things you can plant outside directly. Things like tomato plants. These packets come with somewhere between 30 and 50 seeds in each packet. You have to think to yourself, you have to plan ahead. Do I have space? How many plants do I have space for tomato-wise? Am I going to use all 30, 50 seeds in here? Can I keep seeds from year to year? Yes, seeds do degrade from season to season, but you can keep some from year to year. But in certain cases, or maybe you have a situation where you want to grow extra plants, either for your neighbors or some family as well. So, picking out like what you want to grow from seed and making it economical for you. I mean, do you need, so many tomato plants or so many cucumber plants? Maybe you only have space for only a couple of cucumber plants anyway. So trying to kind of guess your garden space and what kind of plants you're going to use. This packet is $1.99 for cucumbers. You can buy a couple, cucumber plants for, $4 to $8. You don't have to buy a seed pack to do that if you're only going to have 2 plants in your garden anyway. So you're kind of just thinking about economics and space and what you're going to use and how you're going to use it. So each seed packet that we sell gives you a lot of information on the back here. It's going to tell you all the planting depths and whether they go sunshade, that kind of stuff. And it also gives you an indication of when to get these started. So a lot of times what happens is, even sometimes this time of year, like in March and stuff coming up, people come to me and they give us a call and they say, I started my tomato seeds back in January and the plant's already this tall and it's kind of floppy. What should I do? And I say, well, you shouldn't have started in January. There's timing issues that you have to get your plant started at the right time to get it to be a good sturdy plant to go outside at the right time, when it's time to get them outside. So, every time it gives you an indication on the back of each packet here. So like this one for tomatoes says 6 to 8 weeks before last frost. So you have to think, first of all, what kind of plants are we talking about? So when it comes to most plants, our true last frost date, where we have a good chance of having above freezing temperatures or above temperatures at nighttime above 40 degrees, is actually more like May 20th. A lot of people say Mother's Day. I will tell you, I guarantee you, I was here last year on Mother's Day and it was snowing sideways and it was not pretty. So May 20th is really our good to go date for all these plants. There are some times where you have some nice warmer temperatures in late April, early May, and it kind of teases you into thinking that this is a good time to plant. Most all these plants are tropical and they like to have warm conditions at night, and they want to have the soil warmed up. We had a pretty harsh winter. So it's going to take a while for a lot of snow to melt. It's going to take a while for the ground to warm up. So it really isn't a great thing to do a lot of these plants to get them ready to go outside earlier than that date. So when we're saying, okay, things like tomatoes, 6 to 8 weeks before May 20th, the earliest is going to be March 20th. You want to start these things. So other plants have different timing but it'll indicate on the packet here as to when to do them. Also think to yourself, okay, there's certain plants that you don't have to do early from seed. Actually, it's more economical if you're going to do things like vegetables in terms of like a lettuce or like radishes or carrots. Those kind of things are actually best to do to sprinkle outdoors directly into the soil. So these are things you don't really, it has indication on here you can start them early, but these are things you don't really have to. It's actually best to do directly into the soil. You avoid the transplant shock and such. So these are things you can purchase now and plan on planting outdoors when the time is correct. So these kind of seeds You can plant certain things, you can plant a little earlier. There are things like lettuce, radishes, carrots, those kind of things that can take it fairly cool. They don't really have to wait until that last frost-free date in May. So these things you can actually plant in late April, early May from seed outdoors directly. So these are things you don't have to worry about at this point. Things like other vegetables, like most of the warm season crops like tomatoes and peppers, those are things you can start earlier inside, and cucumbers as well, squash, those kind of things. It's best to start indoors, give them a little head start because they are tropical plants. It gives them a little bit longer of a growing season if you get them started indoors at first. So to give you an indication as to when to start these, we don't even start a lot of these plants ourselves here at Countryside until this next week or two here. So the only thing we have started at this point, we have some onions started from seed, so we want to do those, get them started now. We have some of the really hot peppers. Those we started early just because they have a little longer germination time and they're kind of iffy with germination, so we started those a little earlier. But really, the next thing we're going to start are our regular sweet peppers. We're going to start next week here. And our tomatoes, their first batch is really going to start 2 weeks after that. So if we don't get them started here, you really don't have to start them at your house either. The goal is to get a nice sturdy plant with a good root system to go to transplant outdoors. You don't want to have a tall floppy plant you don't want it really to grow all that much indoors. You're just getting a good head start for the plant. So think in terms of that. So just go by the weeks that are on the backs of the packets as to when to get these guys started indoors. Other plants can take it a little cooler. So there's things like some of your brassica plants, like broccoli or Brussels sprouts. Those things can take a little cooler. Same thing as the lettuce and carrots and beets. These plants you can start a little earlier. So the good to go date for these to plant outdoors is more like late April, early May for these guys, because they can take some light frost. So if it gets cold in early May, like it does a lot of times around here lately, you can plant these a little sooner. So if this says 4 to 6 weeks before, you're going to go 4 to 6 weeks before the end of April or so. So again, these are things we're going to start pretty soon in the next couple of weeks indoors, and you can get these planted out a little sooner. Other plants, things like beans and such, again, is another good indicator. That's a good plant that you're going to plant directly outdoors into the soil. These grow really fast and simple. They're easy to do. Just push the seed into the soil, and you get a lot of these plants. You usually have a lot of bean plants as opposed to like a lot of tomato plants or squash plants. These can get you in a smaller space, and you can plant these directly outdoors. So it's something you don't really have to plant indoors to start with. And if you're doing flowers, there's different types of flowers. Most flowers, need to be frost-free. So things like your marigolds and zinnias as you're going to start. Those kind of things you want to do, again, May 20th is your target date. So we're going to do, this one starts like 6 weeks before frost. This one says 4 to 6 weeks. So like this kind of thing, your marigolds, you can start like a month before. This could be like late April before you even start these indoors. Again, you're just giving them a little head start to get them going. There are a few flowers that can take it a little cooler though. So if you want to start these, some things like alyssum or pansies, those again you can plant outdoors, usually late April, early May. So these things, again, it'll say 10 to 12 weeks before frost. This one says 4 to 6 weeks before frost. This is more like a late April kind of thing. So these are things you can start now for sure, and these things you can start in a little bit here to get them going. Other seeds, just so you know, if you happen to carry your seeds over from year to year, or if you collected some seeds from last year's plants, like we talked about in our seminar, some plants need a little extra care just to get them going, just so we know in advance. So there's things like morning glories that need something called scarification. There's a really hard seed, so they either need to be scraped with a file, or they need to be soaked in seed first before you plant them. And again, just go by the weeks on the back here. So this is 6 to 8 weeks before frost, but it needs a little extra care. Perennial seeds, like most of the coneflowers and other things you might see a lot in your yards, these things, if you collected the seeds from last year, they have to go through what's called the stratification process. So these seed packets you purchased in the store already went through that. But if you have seeds from last season, make sure that you plant them in some soil medium and just keep them in a cold location. A garage is usually fine. Anything below 40 degrees for like a good month or so before you plant them. They need to have that cold period to mimic being outdoors in nature to actually get to germinate and start and do their thing. So keep that in mind. And if you do have seeds from last year, one little thing you can do as like a test to see. You say, oh, I got this seed packet here. It says it was good like in 2015 or something. Are these seeds still any good? There's a way you can kind of check to see how they're doing. You can just take some paper towel like this, give it a little spritz, get it moist, and you're going to go ahead and put some of your seeds on here. Just do a sampling of the seeds that you have. And you're just going to sprinkle a couple on here like this into the moist area and flip it over. Get a little extra shot of moisture like that. And you're going to put this in a warm location. When you put this in a warm location, you're going to see if these seeds germinate. It should only take about, three days to a week or so to actually get the plants to start germinating, depending on what they are. And you can see that if they sprout, you'll know that the seed is still good, and you can go ahead and plant the rest of your seeds as an indicator. So next week, we're going to go over the actual seeding process, as to tell you how to get your plants started and what kind of medium to use and light conditions and all those things we're going to go over next week. But thanks for stopping by for this week's episode, and look forward to talking to you again next week. Okay, just a real quick add-on to today, just to show you the benefit of having bottom heat on your seedling trays. So we have a heating mat like this you can use in your home, but our tables are heated from underneath with radiant heat, and the actual heating element runs vertically down the middle of the table. So I started some bean seeds here just to show you some examples of seedlings, and you can tell that the seeds over here on this side that are directly under the heating element, they've germinated and they're actually growing quite well. Whereas the seedlings that are just off to the side a bit and just a little bit away from the heat, they're starting to germinate, but not nearly as big as these. Just showing you the additional benefit of putting some bottom heat on your seedlings.